The engine is starting up.
For launch. GC. Go. Guidance. Go. Fido. Go. Prop.
Go.
GNC. Go. Max.
Go.
Eagle. Go. Ecom.
Go pending final steps. The cabin link check.
3, 2, 1.
Is there anyone here that would like to communicate with us? Can you give us a sign?
Welcome to the R.I.F.T Nation Network, the RNN, putting a slide in your glide and a dip in your hip. Welcome to the mothership, the home of the travelers of the universe. With shows throughout the week, you can find us at Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Everything you could want, everything you can need right here, right now. From the paranormal to the supernatural. From comedy to the spiritual. And now, your featured show. Shall we begin?
It's showtime, folks!
Podcast may contain material that some listeners may find sensitive, offensive, or disturbing. We strive to create respectful and informative content, but topics discussed may include mature themes such as violence, explicit language, or controversial subjects, triggering content including discussions related to mental health, trauma, or other sensitive issues, explicit language. Occasionally, our guests or hosts may use strong language. While we aim to handle these topics with care and empathy, we encourage listeners to exercise discretion. If you find any content distressing, consider skipping or seeking support. Remember that this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. If you need assistance, please consult a qualified expert.
Doctor, would you care to do the introduction, sir?
Of course, Ed. Ladies and gentlemen, gather round as we venture into the depths of the unknown. Tonight, we set sail on a mysterious journey through time. A journey where a ship, its crew, and its fate remain shrouded in questions that even the bravest minds can't quite answer. Was it a curse, a ghostly encounter, or perhaps something far more sinister lurking beneath the waves? Join us as we uncover the haunting tale of a vessel that vanished, leaving only echoes of its past. Welcome to a story of the sea, where the lines between myth and reality blur. Ed, Rhonda, let the adventure begin.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Doctor. We cannot thank you enough for that. And good evening, everyone. Hello, hello. How are you, Rhonda?
Good. I was like, why can't I see anything? Oh, I don't have my glasses on. Let me grab those glasses.
I feel you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ed the Hitman Odell.
And I am Rhonda Harris.
And you are a part of the Orion Effect right here on the RNN Rift Nation Network. Tonight's show is brought to you by GOS, Ghosts of Stanton, Virginia. Check them out with tours all through the season, not just October. Come check out why the Queen City could be one of the most haunted cities on the East Coast, if not in America. Come on over and check it out. We have a great show for you tonight, but as everybody knows, we do a little how you doing, a little open and a little talk. So there is a little going on. We do apologize about last weekend. Look, let's be honest, okay? It's been a rough 2 weeks for my family on our end. We lost our uncle last weekend, and for those of you who are in the Virginia area or in Richmond and Central Virginia, we lost a good man, a really good man, and we've been dealing with it. So definitely this channel, this network wants to give prayers, loves, and condolences to everyone involved that was a part of it. This was Sarah's uncle, blood uncle, well, no, per se. So it's been rough. Unfortunately, he was taken by a tractor trailer accident in Sussex, Virginia, and we done, we did the right thing and postponed the show last Sunday to bring it to you this Sunday. We had a good but rough weekend this weekend, and here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. Here we are. Now, I'm not the only one that's had a long, rough weekend. Well,
Well, it hasn't even just been the weekend. I had some medical stuff going on for a couple weeks, so I think we're on the other side of that. But yeah, it's been an interesting summer. I told somebody, I said, I've been sick. Well, one of them was self-inflicted sickness. For those of us of a certain age, I'm just going to tell you the shingle shot is no joke.
Oh,
Ill. Well, it doesn't make everybody ill. It made me ill. But so like the good part of the beginning of the summer, I was sick every weekend or just trying to rest and all of that. So kind of come back on the other side of all of that, some medical testing and stuff I had to have done. And then this weekend we did investigate, and I did not pull in my driveway till 7 this morning. So
you've definitely had your day too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't too bad. I actually, my body just won't let me sleep, but so late. Like, it just knows that, like, it's daylight, chick, get up. So I probably slept till about 10:30. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to sleep good tonight. That's all that matters.
There you go. Absolutely. There you go. Well, I just want everybody to know that I am not on my 100% best. I do have a reoccurring headache that comes back, but I did have an anxiety attack today.
No.
Yeah, kind of going with the flow of everything that's going on right now.
Yeah.
We're doing the best, but I've had a great consultation with the doctor. He will be joining us off and on through this next hour, if you will. And we're really going to dive into some really interesting subjects that's, as those of you know that are taking part here with us in Clockwork, that this is a series that is dedicated to conspiracies and put in an analogical content. Now, we did fall back a little bit with this show because we're just stepping back just a couple years. Actually, we're going back. I almost lost my notes there on that one for that. I'm like, I had this already. I went, daggone. We're actually going back to 1872, and then we're going to move forward from here. So, yes, we're stepping back a little beyond Aurora, but there's a reason for it. I promise you. And hello, Michelle Welcome is in the house. Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Uh-oh. Michelle said she had a side effect on that shot.
Yeah, it was rough. Hey, Mike. Yeah, it was not, it's not for the faint of heart. I don't know that everybody gets the reactions I did. And, I might as well have had the flu or something. So.
Right. Oh, my.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't seem too pleasant. I'm sorry. It doesn't. Well, then that gives you a good point of reference to just sit back and relax tonight while we do some exploring, I would say.
Yeah.
We're going to get that set up. Let me get this. It's not going the way I want it to. It never does. There we go. We're gonna start this way, if you will, and we're gonna bring this up. Da 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 da. I had everything loaded and ready to go. I'm still, you guys, trying to get used to how we can bring pictures and video up. I'm still not 100% with it, but I've got it to where I want to be so far. So far.
Well, that's just it. You get it where you want it, and then they go make an update, and it's like, where is everything?
Yeah. It's a
Where did that go? Why does it look like that now?
Yeah, exactly. And that's pretty much what we got going on. But I found some new stuff, like as you see right here. I learned how to play some new stuff. So this is pretty cool. So let's step right into it, if we shall.
Let's go.
Chat. Let's get it there. I guess it's better than getting the shingles. I hear that.
Yeah.
We have wildfires.
Times 2. Oh, wow.
Across the river in Washington. Yikes.
Wow.
Our blessings out to there. Michelle Caps is in the house. Hello,
Yeah.
Michelle. Welcome. Y'all are just in time. Just in time. We're going to get our spooky voices on. We're going to spooky vibe on. We're going to take you back to 1872. It's November. It's a very chilly morning in New York Harbor. And a brigade ship is ready to take its voyage. It has a destination to cruise to the other side to Spain. The ship has 3 masts, as you see in the picture. It is a beautiful ship. It is manned by a gentleman and his family, interesting enough. Along with it is a crew of 7 and the infant child of said captain.
Okay.
The ship leaves. It's a beautiful day. It starts to warm up. They're giving a wonderful bon voyage. The waters seem to be clear and calm and relaxed. The sun, like I said, is just coming out for a November day. Up north, it's crispy.
Yeah, for November, yeah.
Yeah.
We're beyond crispy.
That's right. That's right. Well, this vessel decides to take its path and comes down slightly as it starts to head for Spain. And as it does, several periods of time go by and there is no word, there's no sight of this vessel. Nobody's heard anything. Nobody's seen the vessel. It's like it's disappeared off the water. It's very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Because we're talking a family and the crew. It's very decisive indeed. On December 7th, 1872, the Azores comes across another brigade. Now, the Azores is a Canadian brigade vessel. The vessel that we're looking for is manned by Captain Briggs. What the Canadian vessel, the Azores captain, sees is a vessel ahead of him. It's moving periodically, unlike it should. The sails are in full flow. It is going in its proper way, but something erratic is about the ship. Now, when I say about the ship, I'm talking about how it's actually being steered, how it's moving. It's going in a zigzag, an awkward position on the way any ship should be going. So the captain of the Azores says, "We shall investigate. Let us go take a look." They draw closer to the vessel. The captain takes out his spyglass, takes a look, looks across the board, abroad the ship. No one to be seen. There's no one to be seen. He's like, that's odd. He's like, not sure what we should do right at this point. His first officer comes to him and says, what if we're dealing with pirates? This could be a setup.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, this is true. But what if they're in need? Put a crew together. Take a doggy. Go on over. Let's see what's going on. His first mate says, aye, sir. They drop their doggy. They head towards this vessel. As they get towards this vessel, they see that there's a fresh paint on this vessel. It's a new vessel. They look up to the sails. The sails are at a third flown, which means there's only several cruising sails for those who understand shipment. Some are folded in a wrap. This is a speed thing, but this is a standard nautical procedure. There's nothing unusual about that. He calls out ahoy. The ahoy is sent out. He asks permission to come aboard. There's nothing to be heard. Now they're getting really worried. However, there's no signs of any struggle, any signs of any of this. So they move closer to the ship. They come along the stern and then through the bow. They do a circle. And they see the name of the ship, which at this point, of course, makes no difference to them, right?
Right.
So they go up the rails, tie their doggy off, and go aboard. What they see, they can't explain. There is no crew member aboard this ship. They decide, shall we move on? And the captain tells his first mate, yes, let's continue. Let's go down. Let's check the ship. So they go down into the ship. They go into the cantina. Slowly, of course, because this could be a trick by piracy.
Right.
Now, some of you are going, pirates in the 1800s? Absolutely. They were still...
We're still pirates now.
That's exactly right. So they go down. They go into the captain's quarters. Captain's quarters looks like it's perfectly neated, dusted, like someone was just in there. But there is no individual. They see a baby rocker, but no baby. The captain gets worried and goes, search the entire ship. As they do that, he goes back on top. He takes one note. Now, mind you, he takes the note of this. Their doggy is missing. Now, when we say doggy, many people have a different name for this. The doggy, in Canadian, back then, was what you would consider their life ship. Some of you have seen these 18 and 1700s. They have their boats that go out from the bigger ship. That's a doggy. I'm using other terms, by the way. But anyway, we'll continue. He does take a note of it. His first mate comes up to him on top and says, sir, you need to come look at this. So what is it? He's like, you really should come look at this. He goes down, looks over the cantina, the area where the men were. Everything's perfectly in its place. Perfectly in its place. The interesting part, there's one dinner plate on the table in perfect order with the food on the plate. no disturbance. Food on the cantina table, men's items in their cots. Everything seems to be the cargo perfectly in shape. That is where the captain goes, there's a problem. Get another crew. Let's man this. We got to get this to shore. Get it back to New York. The interesting part is this is not the first time he nor Mariters have ever seen the situation. It's just interesting because now a family is involved. Not just Maritimers, but family. 2 children and a wife are now missing. Yes, a doggy is missing. But why? There has been no disturbance of any of the living quarters or items. There's food perfectly intact. Men's quarters are in perfect position. The interesting part is the cargo is still there, untouched. There's no signs of a scar furling anywhere on the ship. Why would the crew be missing? That's the interesting part. We don't know. But the captain then does one more brow, takes note. What's the name of the ship? He goes to the rear and makes a doctrine in his log. The ship happens to be the Mary Celeste, which left New York Harbor November 1872. And so the mystery begins. And now we're going to put a little backing on the Mary Celeste. Now, I left a little hint for all of you. I don't know if you caught it. That's going to be the interesting part. Did you catch what I said? There's one crucial thing that I said about this story, about this case, that makes this even more interesting. Did anyone catch it? Did anyone catch it? While we're doing that, hello to everybody who's just tuning in. Thank you for being here. You are a part of the Orion Effect, and you are a part of Clockworks, the Mary Celeste. What is an interesting point of view? Interesting. Did anyone else notice that it was one plate left on the table of food?
Right.
And all the food was left on the counter. Now, the interesting part, this has taken place multiple times prior to the Mary Celeste. Crews missing from their ships with no reason to be scuttled, with no effect. Some of these ships went south, even to the tip of where the Mary Celeste was found. As it was tipping, it tipped one particular place, one particular mysterious place of what then they thought were the waters.
The Bermuda Triangle?
It tipped the Bermuda Triangle. Now, it was not in the Bermuda Triangle. However, it was in the vicinity of the Bermuda Triangle. Hello, Heidi. Hello, hello. Viet girl is in the house. Hello, hello. Everybody send their waghorns in the house. Hello, hello.
Welcome in.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I'm going to read off a little bit of information and let's get the back source and then let's dive in because the doctor is waiting at the bit to get really into this one. He tended to be a little bit excited about this. So let's continue. Let us look at this over. For her maiden voyage in June 1861, the now named Mary Celeste, under the control of the British Tea Party, the Amazon sailed to 5 islands and out of Nova Scotia to take on a cargo of timber, for passage across the Atlantic to London. After supervising the ship's loading, Captain McKillen fell ill. His condition worsened. The Amazon returned to Spencer's Island, where McKillen died on June 19th. John Nutting Parker took over as captain and resumed the voyage to London, in the course of which the Amazon encountered further misadventures. She collided with a fishing equipment in the narrows of the east port of Maine, and after leaving London, ran into and sank a brig in the English Channel.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what makes this ship very interesting. Now, Parker remained in commander for 2 years, during which the Amazon worked mainly in the West Indies trade. She crossed the Atlantic to France in November 1861, and in Marseilles was the subject of a painting, possibly by, I'm going to say this wrong, Honora de Pellegrini. I attempted that. You know what? I think that is the painting that actually brought up the first one. So everybody can take note that was it. I'm going to see if this works. Let me see. Yep. Hey, I found out another way of doing it. Look, I can multi-picture this thing. Cool. So I do believe this is actually the picture. So this is what we're talking about of that painting.
Was that a picture of the actual Mary Celeste?
That's what I was actually getting ready to go to right here. This is an actual picture of the Mary Celeste. This, up top, of course, is Briggs's wife and son. Intriguing.
I find it interesting that it was just a crew of 7 for a ship of that size.
You know, it looks big, but it's not as that big. It's not for a brigadier. It's actually not that bad. But, you know, this is true. A larger crew, you would think would be on it, because I thought the same thing when I started getting into the research, but no.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. I was like, caught off guard. I was like, well, that's intriguing. Shouldn't there be more? Yeah, evidently not. Evidently, you know, well, the other thing is, Maritime had become very systematic.
Yeah. They had made strides in that, and probably had workflows down and processes that allowed them to go with smaller crews.
Agreed. That's the only thing I can think of. That's really the only thing I can think of. So, a well-known maritime artist of the Marseilles School in 1863. Parker was succeeded by William Thompson, who remained in command until 1867. These were quite a year. The Amazon's mate later recalled that we went to the West Indies, England, and the Mediterranean, what we call the foreign trade. Not a thing of unusual happenings. In October 1867, at the Cape Breton Island, Amazon was driven ashore in a storm and was so badly damaged that her owners abandoned her as a wreck. And on October 15th, she was acquired as a derelict by Alexander McBean of Glace Bay, Nova Scotia. Now, here's the interesting. Here it comes. Within a month, McBean sold the wreck to a local businessman who, in November 1868, sold it to Richard W. Haynes, an American mariner from New York. Haynes paid $1,750 for the wreck and then spent $8,825 to restore it.
Okay.
He made himself her captain, and in December 1968, she was registered with the collector of ports of New York as the American vessel under the name the Mary Celeste.
Okay.
Very interesting. Now, let me read this a little bit. In October 1869, the ship was seized by Haynes' creditors. This is getting interesting, isn't it? And sold to a New York contumarat headed by James H. Winchester.
Interesting.
Interesting, isn't it? During the next 3 years, the composition of this consortium changed several times, although Winchester retained at least half share throughout. No record of the Mary Celeste trading activities during this period have been found. Early 1872, the ship underwent a major refit, costing another $10,000.
And if you think about in the 1800s what $10,000 would be now,
Right?
like when you said he had creditors, like I was like that. I mean, where would you find that kind of money back then? Like, wow.
Had to be old money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, wow. And yes, if there's any questions of what I said about James H. Winchester, yes, it is the same Winchester family. Just to let people know. Even more intriguing, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Now, it says, which enlarged her considerably. Her length was increased to 103 feet, her breadth to 25.7 feet, and her depth to 16.2. Among the structure changes, a second deck was added. A Spector's report refers to extensions to the poop deck, new transoms, and the replacement of many timbers. The work increased the ship's tonnage to now 282.28. On October 29th, 1872, the consortium was made up of Winchester with 6 shares and 2 minor investors with 1 share apiece. The remaining 4 of 12 shares being held by the ship's new captain, Benjamin Spooner Briggs.
Okay.
Intriguing. Love this. Now, Benjamin Briggs was born in Wareham, Massachusetts on April 24th, 1834, and one of the sons of the sea captains, Nathan Briggs. That's correct, same Briggs if you know your maritime.
Mm-hmm.
All but one of the sons went to sea. 2 became captains. Benjamin was an observant Christian who read the Bible regularly and often bore witnesses to his faith at prayer meetings. In 1862, he married his cousin Sarah Elizabeth Cobb. Why does that name sound familiar? And enjoyed a Maritan honeymoon aboard the schooner First King. 2 children were born. Arthur in September 1865. There we go. And Sophia Matilda in 1870. By the time that Sophia birthed, Briggs had achieved a high standard within his profession. He considered retiring from the sea to go to business for himself, the seafarings of brothers and Oliver, who had also grown tired of the wandering life. They did not proceed with this project, but each invest his savings into the share of the ship. Oliver instead in Julia A. Hulcock and Benjamin in the Mary Celeste. In October 1872, Benjamin took command of the Mary Celeste for her first following voyage. Her extensive from New York retrofit, which was to take her to Gonia in Italy. He arranged for his wife and infant daughter to accompany him, while his school-aged son was left at home in the care of the grandparent. Wow. So, the intriguing begins. Oh, everybody's starting to pop in. Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Clockwork, the Mary Celeste. Let's get caught up with you guys. Heidi says, yay. Cindy, did it get restored in Nova Scotia? Did you say no? The restore actually, from my understanding and the research, took place in New York.
Yes.
So it's been twice. No, she's right. It's been twice.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yes, the first time was Nova Scotia. The
Yeah.
second time was New York. So great question, Cindy. And yes, you are right. That was during that first wreck. Now, this is the interesting part I'm already looking at. For those of you that are a part of that whole, oh, that's spooky thing, and if you're seeing this, there's almost a haunt already about this ship. It's 3 or 4 times. It's already been in some form of accident, issues, and now, then it had money issues. It's been a constant thing with this ship. Hey, Kev. Hi, Howie. Hi, Rhonda. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Michelle. Hi, V. Hi, Susan. Hi, Heidi. Yeah, Mama Susan's in the house. Abby, hello, and how are you? And welcome. Love seeing your consistency. Well, thank you, Abby. Most podcasters give up way too soon. Why would I give up? Why would we give up? I connect with a bunch of indie creators and sometimes share useful tools and apps. Want me to DM a few? Sure, absolutely. Why not? We always like to expand and talk out. So thank you, Abby. We appreciate you for that. Heidi says hi, Kev, and Vet is like, I figured I read Nova Scotia. You're right. So this is the interesting thing. Now we're going to poke the man. Doctor, so we have learned the background of the Mary Celeste and the interesting ideals, especially with the food on the table, etc. Isn't it interesting how this connects with other sub-style ships?
Yes. That's one of the most intriguing parts of this story. It's as though the Mary Celeste is a part of a much older, deeper narrative, one that stretches through time, connecting with other ghost ships that haunt the oceans. You see, the disappearance of the Mary Celeste isn't just an isolated incident. It's part of a tradition, a pattern of mysterious vanishings that still stir our imaginations today. Take, for instance, the Flying Dutchman. Much like the Mary Celeste, it's a ship that sails without a crew, doomed to wander forever on the sea. The stories around the Dutchman talk of cursed voyages, sightings by other ships, and the eerie feeling that something's just off. And don't get me started on the Jolly Roger, where pirate legends of ghost ships became intertwined with stories of premonitions and unnatural disappearances. These tales, whether of cursed ships or doomed crews, seem to share an eerie connection, and perhaps the Mary Celeste itself is simply one more link in the chain. What do you think, Ed? Do these legends bleed into each other, or is it just the sea playing tricks on us?
That is a good question, Rhonda. What do you think? Is there something to this, or?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I have a lot of questions just overall about, it's like they disappeared and there's this weird occurrence. I mean, I think about it and I think about.
It's like every ship that goes missing or encounters a strange event seems to have some kind of unexplained aura around it, almost like a ghostly signature left behind. And it doesn't matter if it's a small fishing boat or a massive vessel, there's this pattern. They vanish, only to show up or not show up under circumstances that leave more questions than answers. For the Mary Celeste, the fact that the table was set, the food left untouched, it doesn't sit right, does it? It's like whoever was on board knew something was coming, but couldn't prepare for it. The same eerie feeling surrounds the Flying Dutchman. It's as if there's some cosmic force pulling these vessels into the unknown, and the same supernatural undertones might be weaving all these tales together. What do you think, Rhonda? Does that connection feel right to you?
Potentially. Or is it just we make up tales because no one knows what really happens? Because you're out at sea, there's ways to lose communication. So do we just make a narrative to fill the gaps?
True, that could very well be it. The sea is vast and unforgiving, And back in the day, without modern communication, anything could happen. We could just be filling the gaps with speculation, because we want answers. But here's the thing. Sometimes the lack of explanation itself fuels these stories. Like the Mary Celeste. How could something like that happen? A ship in perfect condition, sailing with its crew, and then nothing. It doesn't always feel like just a random event. The legends, the ghost ships, they could be born from the fact that these disappearances leave us with no closure. When we don't have answers, we turn to the supernatural, don't we? I mean, the Flying Dutchman, was that just a sailor's tale to explain a missing ship? Or is there something more to it? It might be a mix of both. Tales start out of real events, but then they take on a life of their own as they get retold. What do you think, Ed? Could it be that we're trying to explain the unexplainable?
You know, I think it's a very good possibility. I really do. I think that back in the day, we had to, or they had to. Let me hold on one second.
Exactly. Back then, there was so much unknown. The sea was an entire...
I've learned.
Yeah.
So this is the interesting part, and I love the way that he brought that up. And I think you were kind of heading that way, Rhonda.
Yeah.
Is they had to have an excuse. What was the reason behind it?
Right.
This story gets a little deeper.
You know-
Hold on. Don't you dare. It does get a little deeper. And with that, before we go any further, let's... Oh, yeah, he's got it. You're ahead of me, man.
I'm holding. What's up?
So, no, you're on target, Doctor.
You're very welcome.
Okay, we're not going to... I know what's going to happen now. So we're going to make sure that he goes into... Yep. Sorry, you guys. Hold on one second, because I'm doing a... You know, it's an AI. I got to do a reboot on his ass. And check. All right. There's more to this particular story. And I think if we look into it, there's more to any of these ships that have gone missing and aircraft that maybe we don't look into. And we are quick to jump.
Yeah.
Yes, we go looking for an excuse or a reason.
Yeah. We go looking for excuses and reasons, and then we come up with these tales, if you will, of what happened or the strange occurrences. Well, doesn't that set a nice table for a vessel with money trouble to abandon a ship, leave a plate of food, make everything look fine, and just take off?
Absolutely. Now, okay, Cindy, and
And
that's
go somewhere
great,
else.
yeah.
You know?
Cindy does have a good point. She says, have to check if Glacier Bay is near Oak Island.
Good point.
I know where you're
Good point.
going.
Good point.
With money involved in this ship and the people merchandising it. Absolutely. Hey, Steve, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
You know, they think they leave a ship empty, it will just at some point crash and burn. And what if it doesn't?
Yeah, exactly. Woo, that's kind of cool. You know, Kevin drops in here and says, hey, V, wasn't there a phantom ship seen in the Bay of Shalar and or Reskagushi River areas? Oh. See, now this is the interesting part. This is what we were talking about. This was a web. That's why we went back to the Mary Celeste. Hey, Keith, no problem, brother. There is a web. There isn't a connection between this ship, pre-ships predating, and ships after it. And that's one of the things we wanted to bring up. I wanted to talk about. Let me catch up with Kev. Vet says yes. Kev, Lay Machalt, and the merchant ships Benufestant and the Marquise de Malaz from Battaglia de la Rastaroche. Boy, I hope I'm not murdering these. If I am, I apologize. But that's interesting. Kev says history about the rings a bell about the Bay Shalar. Renee says, tall tales. Yeah, well, some of them have to be tall tales. Ooh, tall sales. You know, Steve, your text is coming out before you are saying it with your voice. This is crazy in the life. Oh, yeah, it happens. I'm sorry, dude. Sometimes it'll be a delay.
Well,
Kev says,
the one thing that really piqued my interest about the Mary Celeste, where were the captain's logs?
now, that's a very good point. The captain's logs were there.
And where did they stop?
Oh, wait. This is the interesting part. There's 2 pages that were missing out of the log. They were ripped out of the captain's log. Where did they go? Were they the ending? Now, here's the thing. They don't say, from what we understand, they don't say if those 2 pages were in the mid-log, beginning or end of log. They just said there were 2 pages missing from the captain's log. Now, Rhonda, that's another good point. I wanted to bring something up. Is everything was there. The spyglass was there. The bomber, it's a wind veil type thing, that was there. Everything you need to calculate your trip was still in the captain's quarters. It was like just, it was like, how can I explain it? I have to go like this. It's like something or someone just came along and took them. However,
Or did they leave on their own accord?
see, now they left on their own accord because we see now. Here's the interesting part. I'm going to throw a twist in that. They left it on their accord, right? Because we know that the dinghy or the doggy, there was one missing, right? How do we know that? And how do they know that that doggy was even a part of them? Someone could have come along, docked, taked, riched, dropped that to make it seem like they left the ship.
Right.
Something else might have happened. Now, the
I mean,
reason,
you can go down through so many rabbit holes. Like maybe there was an illness. They all get on the dinghy or doggy to go somewhere to get help. They leave. You would think if that was the situation, they'd leave somebody on the boat. Said person fixes their dinner, fixes their food, decides to go up to do something and falls overboard.
yeah,
Ooh.
it's that simple, but it's not that simple because I haven't told y'all the complete story yet.
Doo-doo-doo.
Oh, there's a reason why this is called a conspiracy, if you will. It's only going to get better from here. So there's a lot more to the story. Now, before I jump in, I see y'all made some comments. This is great. I love it when y'all guys do this. But there's a things. Did y'all remember what was said prior to it leaving the harbor? Now, there's a reason behind I'm pointing this out because I'm actually going to bring the doctor back in just a second.
Well, one thing, didn't you say it might be over, but didn't you say it was kind of like its maiden voyage? It was like,
it was maiden voyage underneath the name.
oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
Because when I was like, it wasn't the first time it had been out. Okay.
No, it was not the first time. It's just the first time underneath its name, the Mary Celeste.
Okay.
That's the interesting part. That is the very interesting part. Now, I want to catch up on you guys real quick, and then I'm going to move into the next section. Kev, Kev, there's another in the area close to St. Charles, NB. I'll go research it for you later. I'm not home, so I don't have my second device. Cool. To rabbit hole for you. Steve comes along and says no text.
Later.
Yeah, there's definitely some banging going on in that one, huh? We're sorry, guys, if there's a delay on us. Renee, the ocean is wild and vast, and we still haven't explored it all.
Yeah.
We have sea creatures etc. You know what? She's absolutely right.
Yeah. It only takes you to go out on a boat and be where you can't see land
Mhm.
and realize that there's so many things underneath you that are bigger than you had than the boat that you're in.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, here's the great part. Check this out. Let's see if we get him to wake back up. Oh, he's not going to wake back up.
We put him
Hold
to
on.
sleep.
Yeah. It's actually going to somewhere it's not supposed to go. There's a surprise.
He's a rebel today.
He's a well, I don't know if him or it. Doctor, are you still with us on the Mary Celeste?
I'm still here and ready to dive deeper into the mystery of the Mary Celeste.
Okay.
What's next on your mind?
Well, we've come to the end. We've come to the point where the Mary Celeste has been found by the Aurora in that extension. But what I wanted to go into is the following things that happened with the Mary Celeste after its next voyage.
Ah, yes. Now we can dive into the aftermath of the Mary Celeste mystery. After the ship was found, it still had quite an interesting life. The ship wasn't abandoned by its crew for long, but its reputation was forever tainted. It went through a series of owners, each one attempting to use it, but none had much luck. One key event was when the Mary Celeste was used in an insurance scam by its later captain, who deliberately ran the ship aground on the rocks in an attempt to collect insurance money. Despite its eerie past, the ship still had a few voyages after the incident, but its time was ultimately cut short when it was abandoned for good. Doesn't it strike you as fitting that the ship's haunted history didn't quite end with the disappearance? Its tragic fate continued even after the crew's mysterious vanishing. What are your thoughts on the ship's later fate? Would this add to the mythos surrounding the whole story?
Well, I think this is where the conspiracy actually can begin, because this ship has twice been an economic status issue, has been a problem. Either it was in problem with thereof money, or it was the cause of an issue such as the scam. What if, and I bring this to the entire table, what if there was an insurance fraud scam at the very beginning?
I actually wondered that. And the reason I say that is because I know, much like with cars, if a boat is
Hold on.
That's an intriguing angle. If we consider that possibility, what if the disappearance of the crew wasn't as mysterious as it seems, and was part of a larger orchestrated scheme to cash in on an insurance payout? The timing would be critical, and the fact that the ship was in perilous financial straits could suggest that the owners or captain might have had a financial incentive to make the crew's disappearance seem like a bizarre, unexplained event. It would also explain why the ship was found in such a strange state, abandoned, but still full of valuable goods with no real signs of struggle or distress. If there was a conspiracy tied to insurance fraud at the beginning, it could have been an early, almost perfect crime, with just enough oddities to keep the story alive and prevent anyone from fully digging into the truth. It's like the ideal setup for a ship to disappear in the most mysterious way, especially when you throw in the Bermuda Triangle connection. What if the ship was intentionally left adrift to create the perfect mystery? The insurance payout could have been the real motive. Then, later down the line, the story evolved into this legend, and everyone from paranormal researchers to conspiracy theorists jumped in to explore it. What do you think? Could this be the initial spark of the mystery, and then everything after just built on it?
See, I wonder that, but the reason I didn't say anything is because I know now what boats do with insurance things, and people do scam it, and something gets run aground and somebody rebuilds it, but you're technically not supposed to.
Mhm.
But I wondered that, but I didn't know if back then how boats were insured, how things like that. But the one thing that really came to mind was just how easy it would be to do an insurance scam and go create a life somewhere else. Back then, you could go anywhere and be anyone you wanted to, and then you just set it on down the line.
Now,
You might still be reaping benefits from the next person who gets the boat. Maybe you're getting a kickback.
okay, so this is interesting. Let's drop back. You said talk about kickback. I'm going to add a little bit to this on what you just said. We can see that because of the technology they did not have, which allowed certain things to take place. So, for instance, let's look about the Hotel of Horror. Okay,
Okay.
killed thousands, hundreds of people, and nobody ever knew it until it was too late. He had done that on multiple occasions. He killed his first family, and nobody ever really put onto it. This was all about insurance money. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, like how hard is it to trace like insurance fraud on the open seas?
Exactly. This is intriguing, and this is why I'm glad we went to this, because we're talking conspiracy. That's what this show's about. This is clockwork, and we are looking at possibilities now that they probably may not have looked at back then. I want to say hello to Robert. Hello, brother man. How are you? I love the fact of what Renee just said. Keith did say new and old species are being discovered all the time in the ocean. Absolutely. Oh, even to today. I mean, good Lord. We just had a shark. What was it? They just named a new shark this week. No. Was it this week? She's not listening to me. There's a new shark that was actually in the China Sea, I do believe. So it's a constant thing. Now, bringing that up, this is what I thought when I did the research on this ship, and I'm glad Renee brought this up because now we're going down another rabbit hole. Was that thing cursed? Was that ship a cursed ship?
I thought that too, but
but
all the accidents didn't seem. I hate to use the word fatal, but you know what I mean.
What if they built up to this situation?
Yeah, that's true. That's
the
true.
interesting part is we don't know about the veil, right? We don't know what could take place. What if there was so much negative that led up to this point in time that is what took place maybe upon at this time on this ship, because it had 3 to 4 different occurrences and it was a reoccurring curse, it seemed like.
Maybe it was its own business.
Say that
day one. Maybe it was its own. It was a business. It was a corporation from day one, and that's how it made its money.
You know what? That is very interesting. But what if that's the possibility?
Well, look at some of the big players involved.
Exactly. That's my other point. You're looking at everything I was looking at. I love it because they didn't have what we have now. And now we can look back on a larger scale and go, hey, wait a minute. There's some goofy shit going on here.
Yeah, I mean, was that their way of now? Like we all know, corporate America, businesses will diversify their portfolios to things that don't make sense for very obvious reasons. So maybe this was, I don't want to say money laundering, but maybe it was a way to dump money somewhere where it seemed like you've got this business going on, but it was really to get rid of your true income.
Exactly. Renee, you're right. I love that. Insurance fraud to turn into haunted. Story of possible haunted attraction. That is a good possibility. I like that road you just pulled on that one. Robert said, what year was she found? She was found in 1872, Rob.
Which 1 month after it took off, right?
Correct. 1 month. Yeah, pretty much November 5th and December 4th. Exactly right.
That's kind of interesting too.
Isn't that intriguing? That is very intriguing.
It's actually kind of, well, I guess they were going, I don't know. It seems a little interesting that they left in November too. Just saying.
Well, we know that the waters are not calm in November. That is very interesting. Well thought out. Why did they want to make the trip in mid or the beginning of the rough seas?
I mean, I get they would do it post hurricane season. I understand that.
Okay.
But wouldn't you do it early spring?
I'm going to add to this, if I'm going to throw a chip on the table and I'm going to alley-oop you, if that was the case, why did he take his family?
Because he wanted to take them somewhere else with him.
Another-
Dun.
da, da, da.
Lake
Make-
relocates.
Exactly. Excellent point. So, Sweet V, they're talking about. Now, you guys, we want to thank you for being a part of Clockwork.
So far, this is one of my favorite because you know how I feel about the ocean and boats and all of that. So,
Oh, don't worry. We've got more stories connected. It's not just land-based in history. There's maritimes. There's
oh
a
yeah,
a lot of stuff coming your guys' way.
people talk about the perfect crime, but I think this has brought forth how like the ocean really could help you commit the perfect crime.
Right? At this, look at you take it with Jack the Ripper, take it with the murder hotel. It's an interesting finding good ways at that time to hide shit that's going on, which they can't do that now. They probably could not get away with that because we have a lot more. I want to say intelligence.
Yeah, I don't want to call it checks and balances either, but
yeah, there's more to it now than was.
Yeah,
we have more technology at our hands to help us get through it.
Well, like even at the beginning when you said, they lost track of it, blah, blah, blah. Well, it had been a month. How hard was it to lose track of it? It's not like they had, the tools like today, like Coast Guards and airplanes and everything else to go really keep an eye on something. You know what I mean? There was no walkie-talkies. There was no radio communication. There was.
And your travel time from one point to the other point in the Atlantic was 6 to 7 weeks.
Yeah.
That was the time frame. The Civil War had just ended too. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Good eye on that one, Robert. People are born with it. I love that. And thanks, y'all. See, and that's why we do the show. It's not just about us. You all are able to give us some. I love that V and Kev got in there with us. They're like, hey, what about this? Renee and, jumping in here, Keith is saying his point.
Yeah.
You guys make this show. This is why we do it.
It is. Y'all really do.
Absolutely. Can't thank y'all enough for that. Well, we are at the top of the hour.
Yes, we are.
Hey, Kristen.
Hey, Kristen.
Now, next Sunday, we're going to bring you another conspiracy theory. Now, we're going to start getting into government sides probably next Sunday. Okay. So we're going to start getting a little deeper into where we are right now. Now, periodically, we're going to be going through not just American, but this is a global thing we're looking at. So we're going to be looking at Spain and Italy, along with Germany and France, Britain and America. And there's others, China and Japan.
Yeah.
So trust, there is a lot of conspiracy, even with the Tsar of Russia. There's a story there that needs to be talked about. So until then, travelers and those like, we thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for your input. Thank you for being a part of this show as we always wanted you to be. Yep. This is your show. And as always, we'll see you next Sunday. You are truly appreciated, and may virtue be yours.
Have a great week.
We'll see you guys then.
Next Sunday.
Next Sunday. See you then.
Bye.
The engine is starting up.
For launch. GC. Go. Guidance. Go. Fido.